Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mariner of Spirit. I'm Greg, I'm your host, and tonight we have a great guy who happens to be a fellow broadcaster, podcaster, or one of us that works for Supernatural Inc., and it happens to be Russ Reynolds, but we won't bring him up right now. I want to be able to go ahead and mention a few things that we know I do talk about every once in a while. And that is number one. I like to go ahead and mention the people that I support. And I support Pottergraphs, which is a great organization that's been put together by Tim Miley. And it's for sheltered animals, foundation that's set up to help a charity that's helping sheltered animals. And it started out with him losing a pup, and out of nowhere, he didn't know what was going to happen, if he was going to be able to stay in there. And he ended up going ahead and taking a picture of himself and his dog and putting it, making copies of it, and went to one of the paranormal events and got a table and set up and started going ahead and selling pictures of him and his animals for the charity. He just set it up just like that and started going to it, and that saved everything for him. And he did an awesome job, and he still does today. And if you get an opportunity to go there and see him at one of the events, be sure to tell him I said hi, please, because he's a great guy. Secondly is PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer, with Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson, and they're from down in Florida. They do special events. They do charity events. They do all of it, haunted houses, and it's all for cancer research. So all that money goes to that, and they've been great people. I've known them for about maybe 5 or 6 years now, and they were down at Old South Pittsburgh and hospital, and I happened to go ahead and have the opportunity to go ahead and do a show with my friend Ron from down there, who owns it, and they were part of the teams that were there that night. So I got to talk to them, and I have them come on, and I had them come on, and they're due again, so they'll be coming up pretty quick. They're great people too. And then the Jessica Petrie Foundation, which is a resource for expecting mothers and families of pregnant women with mental illness, which is a big thing to handle. And that's all part of Howard Petrie's daughter. and Howard Petrie pretty is the man that runs Paranormal United Network and Parallax, and he's done a great job. And I wish him the best. And I know the foundation. If you get the opportunity, if you want to go ahead and contribute to any of these, please be my guest because that's important. And then, lastly but not least, would be the authors I support. And the list keeps on growing and growing because people mention this to me all the time. And it's mostly people that I've had. I've had all these people on the show and then some. So the people I want to mention, I have two or three that aren't on here. Uh, we have Bruce Holliday, Tobias Wayland, Adam Benedict, Kathy Kressel, Barnaby Jones, Sherilyn Cotter, Dr. Heatherly Langdon, Ron Iacovetti, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Cotter, Rex Nielsen, David Sloan, and Christina Bloom. And I'm going to mention it one more time that if you get down into the Keys, be sure to look up Mr. David Sloan because he is the one that owns Robert the Doll, who's in the fort down there in his own little big plastic plexiglass case. And first time I saw him was 30 years ago, and he was on a shelf in the house where he the little boy grew up with him as his doll. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Russell Reynolds in.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Russell, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. It's great they finally get us together like this. I
Right?
don't know if we
Yeah.
did it before. I couldn't tell you. I've been going through too much lately. But you're the founder of the Beyond Life Paranormal group, right?
Yep. I'm also the team
And
lead for Cold Spotters out of Columbia.
cold.
Yep. We're Cold Spotters,
Now,
Missouri.
what are cold spotters?
Cold Spotters is a group founded
What
by
is
Amanda
what is
Quill. They are an investigative team. They also do events. They do private residential cases, and they got teams all around the world, not just in the United States and Canada. They got teams over in Europe. And to
is
be part of
Amanda from
Cold
here or over
Spotters, you
there?
got to. Amanda's actually from British Columbia, Canada.
Okay. Sorry for
That's
interrupting you.
where the that's where the group originated, was British Columbia, Canada. And to be part of Cold Spotters, you got to be a legit team, active, not charging money to investigate people's homes, and be there to help people.
That's something that I've always appreciated, and I've been involved in somebody down the road that you know was exactly what you mentioned. And it's like, no, 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 you can't do that.
Nope.
You just can't. But anyway, that's really really neat. And I know that you have gone ahead this last year you've gone to a couple of great places,
Yep.
and I've only been to one of them, which is Gettysburg, of course. But I know you've been to Salem, and why don't you just give everybody a little idea of what Salem, Massachusetts was like to you, because you were never there before,
No,
right?
the last time I was in Salem, I was a kid. I went up there I was
Okay.
about 10 when I was in Salem, and my brother was actually he was in a bad car accident when he just before he turned 18. He was in a drunk driving accident, and we went up there to see him when he come out of his coma. So we went up. He was housed up in Massachusetts in a rehab facility. So we passed through Salem, and I knew from reading stories and stuff about the Salem witch trials. And my best friend from high school, Andrew, his dad would do train shows up there too. He would do model trains, and he's told me some history about Salem. So that's the only time I've been up there. I've never investigated Salem. It's actually on one of my lists of places to go up and investigate is Salem, Massachusetts, with all the witch trials. But that's the only time I've been up through there. I've passed through there. That's about it. But I've never actually investigated it.
So what were your impressions of Salem?
It was pretty neat going through there, seeing all the history, and then we passed the houses that were painted black for the witches and stuff like that. Never did have any paranormal experience because we weren't there long enough to actually really experience it, just passing through. But I've been past it with my
How was that
grandparents.
convention?
The Warren's Paracon, we did that in Gettysburg.
We still
That one was pretty good. We had some good experiences at the Warren's Paracon, meeting a lot of people. Got to meet podcast guests that I've had on my show in person for the first time, which was pretty incredible. They're just like how you see them on your show. They're down to earth, and got to make some more family connections with the Johnson brothers. Come to find out that I'm related to them now,
wow.
which I never knew that. Thanks to my connection with axe murderer Lizzie Borden. So, and with John Zaffis
That,
too. John Zaffis also related to Lizzie Borden.
that's awesome.
So,
We got a lag. We still got a lag there.
yeah, we still got a little bit of a lag. I see our shaman's in the chat, Brandon.
Yes, he is. He's my shaman too.
He's,
I don't know if he's yours, but he's mine. I knew that ever
oh
since
yeah, I love
I
Brandon.
met him the first time.
Brandon's what got me started. I owe it all to him. He got
Brandon's a
my
great guy.
so to him and Supernatural Inc. that got me
He
going.
got you going?
Yep, Brandon's the one that got me going. I met him at Metacon when
Awesome.
he was out here in
That's great.
Missouri. He gave me a card for the podcasting, and we connected, and he hooked me up with the show.
It's great to have him here. We got Allison Hancock.
Yep,
No, it's not Han.
Escott. She's part of
Hescott.
New England Paranormal Investigators out of New England.
Okay. And then you got Jim Feister, Paranormal Rockdown from up there at Broadhead.
Okay, yep, I've heard of them. But Allison, she was a guest
So
on
that's
my show
great.
not
You
too
got
long
you got some different locations. Was she? How many weeks ago?
ago. Just before Amanda Quill, I had her on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to message Amanda. I'd
Yeah,
like to talk
she,
to her a little bit.
yeah, she'd be willing to do it.
She she's pretty neat. So when you
Yeah,
were at Gettysburg, you see, we're still going.
Yeah, you were still lagging
It's
a
like
little bit.
we drop and then we come back together.
Yep.
I can't figure that out. It's crazy tonight. And I don't have anybody else up on here but StreamYard.
Yeah, it's
So it's
weird. I
probably
don't
some wires or something that's going crazy.
probably. You were saying
So
about Getty.
so have you seen? Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't get your question on it because we were lagging. So
Okay, I was going to go ahead and say before we got then I get all discombobulated when you can't catch up. When you were there, out of the whole entire battlefield, what are your three best places to go?
my three was Devil's Den would be my very first one, the Bloody Field, and then Little Round Top. Because all three of them, I was able to experience some paranormal activity in broad daylight out of all three of those being
Now,
there.
Little Round
I
Top
filmed.
had the Pennsylvania. Didn't they have the Pennsylvania boys up there?
Yep, the Pennsylvania boys were up there. That was where the general would stand up on the rock. I forget his name. The eyes. They said it was the eyes of general. He would stand up there with his binoculars up on that rock. That's
Didn't
where
he
I
get?
had
He got
first experience up there, where I seen that Civil War soldier peeking around a rock formation.
wow.
And he was clear as daylight. It was a gray uniform, and he peeked around kind of like that around the rocks, looking at me. And then when he saw me looking at him, he ducked back like I was the enemy getting ready to shoot him.
Was that on off the side of Little Round Top?
Yeah, when you look down, just down over the hill, past the where the general standing statue is on the rock, you go down to that one corner over there,
And
and
they
you
had
look
those
down.
rocks down below.
Yeah, that are stacked up.
Yeah.
That's where he was peeking around that rock formation looking at me. And then shortly after that, we heard a cannon go off, and we seen smoke rolling up over the trees over Devil's Den. And we asked the ranger if they were doing any reenactments, and the ranger says they're not allowed to do any reenactments on the battlefield. And I was like, well, we just heard a cannon go off. He goes, oh, so you guys heard that too? I was like, yeah, and we seen smoke roll up over the trees. He says they see
That's
that there
awesome.
all the time. And then my video
So
from Devil, go ahead.
go ahead. Oh,
In
go
my
ahead.
video from Devil's Den, when I was live on Facebook, you can actually hear in the audio, it sounds like boots and horses walking with me. Now I'm walking in dirt, and you can hear the galloping of hooves. Then you can hear boots marching behind me as I'm walking. And then when I got to the bottom of Devil's Den, I hiked it around, coming through that bottom part, going towards the woods. You can hear them around you in the audio, and you could feel it. You could feel just like that energy, like you weren't alone, that something was there with you walking along. And we were talking to one of the rangers, and he said, yeah, they used to transport the troops on the train cars through there, through the woods, and they ripped up the train tracks and they sent the rails and stuff to France.
Did he
And
say why they sent them to France?
I think they bought them or something off of them. He didn't really get
But
into
that
details about it. and
But
he said they don't allow any paranormal investigating on the battlefields, but he says people do it all the time. I've had people tell me if they see you with equipment, they'll take it away from you. But we never did get stopped.
you know what they need to take away from people? Did you catch that
Garbage,
or not?
yeah, the garbage and the cigarettes that they throw all over the battlefield.
And the fireworks.
Yeah, that too.
I don't know. I don't know because after at dark, they're out all over the place shooting off fireworks and that kind of stuff. And in the middle. They're in the middle of the. Uh, God, it's the big field. I can't
Oh,
think of the
okay.
name of it right now.
Yeah, I know which
When
one.
you go there. It's by the peach orchard.
Okay, yep. Yeah,
And if you
we
go
went
down
in.
further, that's when you get down by. That's where that was. But I my thing was at uh, down at the triangular field, which you probably meant said called the bloody field.
Yep,
And the
it's
bloody
the one where
field, it goes
one
down.
where like 1,500 men lay dead in that field of heat exhaustion and shot because they were ambushed in that field and they had to drop down on the ground.
Rosemary, they were, right across from Devil's Den,
Yep.
across that little road there, and then you look down how that field slopes down. That's where
Mhm.
all the Confederate forces came out of those trees, and
Yep.
all the Union guys were on top of that, so they didn't have a good shot at them, and they just slaughtered the hell out of them.
Yep.
You know, I did a lot of my work down in that field that night,
Mhm.
and had myself set up on this big piece of granite, and I that was a unbelievable experience that I had there because I was all by myself, and they came out like you had mentioned, and I just held my hands out, and I
Yep.
still haven't gone ahead, and I lost the recorder. And what I was doing was I was just basically telling them you know, I'm a veteran just like you guys are. And I says, and then I could feel them come around me, and I
Mhm.
just held my hands out, and I could actually feel them, and it was like surreal. It's one of the
Yeah,
craziest things I ever felt,
we went up
and
to the
it
monument
just pumped
there.
me up
Oh yeah, it's an
to
interesting
the what?
feeling when you it's an interesting feeling when you get up there at those battlefields and then the monument itself up there where they have all the statues of the soldiers and the plaques, and got to see my cousin John Franklin Reynolds up there on that. And
Who was who was he with?
he was with, I think, the Pennsylvania boys. They wanted him to run one of the troops parts, and he said no, so he was a major general, so he ended up taking the other ones over to Reynolds Woods over there. He was in charge of them, and he led the charge over
Okay,
there. And that's where he met his fate and got killed.
and he was the one.
Yeah, he was the one that
Yeah,
shot off his horse.
that's when his that's when his aide was telling him to get off his horse.
Yep.
General,
And
get down, get down, get down, and he kept on going back, and that was it.
yep.
And that was at the very, Reynolds Woods was at the pretty much the very beginning
Yep.
of that day.
And if you
And I
actually
think
look,
it's the same place that I was look.
you look at a picture of him, and you can see he is a Reynolds. We all us Reynolds have a distinctive feature to us and facial feature that you can tell us all are related. And
And what's
I
that?
post between our noses and all our eyes and our facial features. Like I look like my dad. If you put my dad's brother and me together, they'll think I'm his son. And if you look at John Franklin Reynolds' picture,
Yeah, you guys look a lot alike.
yep. And I started doing some more genealogy, and I was able to trace it. I am a cousin of his. He's on my grandfather's side, my great grandfather Caleb's side. It was one of his kids.
Uh, well, that's quite an honor. You
Yeah,
know, that's quite an honor
and it's on
because
our
that
list.
that whole area. Yeah, we ought to get together and
We're
all go
planning
out
on
there.
going back to do some more. Yeah,
You're,
definitely.
you,
Hey,
when
Jimmy, welcome in, Jimmy
when are you going to
Outlaw.
do that?
We're looking probably this summer. That's my buddy Jimmy from Tennessee, Outlaw Paranormal. If you guys haven't followed him, make sure you follow Outlaw Paranormal. Good group of guys.
The one on the bottom. That was the one that was on your show. I saw him on your show.
Yep. Yep.
Those, that was a good show.
Yeah.
He's a good.
That
He
that
appears
was
to be a great guy.
yeah.
I'd love
Outlaw
to meet him
Paranormals.
too.
They're good
They
people.
got Nancy in here.
Hey, Nancy.
That's awesome.
And
Nancy and Brandon says he's back.
welcome back,
We're
Brandon.
we're we're sort of tongue tied here, people. It's just I have some sort of delay that's going on. Either I got a UFO over my house or something like that. I can't,
But yeah,
or
that's
maybe Russell has one in his backyard. He just doesn't know it yet.
never know. Well, my house is haunted, so I've got ghosts in my house. My house has got 3 confirmed deaths, and this whole town
Fun to
itself.
watch.
Yeah, I was just what they were on TikTok the other night doing the Thomas House in Tennessee.
Oh wow,
They investigate there
that's
quite a
really
bit,
cool.
and but yeah, like I was saying, my house is haunted. It's got 3 confirmed deaths, and the land itself is old. My town is an old military Civil War military town named after John C. Breckinridge. He was a general in Kentucky.
I was wondering about that when I saw it right away because the only Breckenridge Ridge that I knew was in Colorado.
Yep, we've
Is
got.
that another one of his relatives?
I think so, yeah. And then we've also got Breckenridge Hills, Missouri, which is also part of John C. Breckinridge's legacy. Nancy
Yeah,
says
we're going
tongue.
to have a big party this summer out in Missouri.
Yeah, Nancy says tongue tied. We could always call Irene.
Oh, Nancy. it's not us. If we would, if we could get better reception by wearing aluminum hats right now, we would. But it's something else entirely.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
we
When you
do
get
that, we
when you
might
get a
get
great
beamed up.
guest on, yeah, when you got a great guest on, things like that happen.
Oh yeah, it
It's either
never
it's
fails.
it's either they're after Russell or they're after me.
And
But
we haven't
that's
even
that's
talked to
that's
Monty
really
yet.
some great stuff.
Yeah,
You might
Gettysburg
as
was a
well
lot.
start. Did you stay right in town?
Uh, no, we were kind of like on the outskirts of it. We stayed at a Days Inn, but it was near some of the battlefields. The battlefields were just right down the road from where we stayed. The hotel that we stayed in was haunted. My dad woke up and saw a figure standing in our hotel room looking at us. He woke me up about it. He's like,
Was he
"There's a figure."
military?
Yeah, it was a military figure. He was there one minute, gone the next. He woke me up.
Wow.
By the time I woke up, he was gone.
You remember the name Mark Nesbitt?
Yep.
Okay, he's another. I interviewed him uh, quite a while back, and his where he has his touring business
Mhm.
or had his touring business because he's retired now. He was in downtown.
Okay.
And he's like three buildings past. Uh, is it Far? It's not Farnsworth. It's the one that had all the bullet holes in the wall,
Oh, the Jenny Wade
and
house?
it was over there by Jenny Wade's place.
Okay. Yep.
But it's like down 3 or 4 buildings from Jenny Wade's, and
Yep.
we got an opportunity to investigate in there after we left the battlefield that night. So we got in there about 10 o'clock, and we were in there, and they had inside that building, in the back end of that building was back in the day was where this guy made wagon wheels,
Okay. Yep. I
and
do
he had his
know
what he
where you're
made,
talking about.
and that's where they had that sharpshooters. They had like
Yep.
4 Confederate guys inside that building, and so later on that night when Mark got ready to leave, he says, "Just lock the door behind you guys." And I went to lock the door while we were still there, and all of our people were behind me in the next room, and I was standing there and I was talking to him, and I went to lock the door, and as I locked the door, somebody went behind me going the other
Mhm.
way, and I looked, and he was going through the door frame, and he looked like a football player, and that was the fullback, if you ever heard that,
Yep.
because they said there was this big Confederate soldier in there that looked like a fullback.
Yep. I remember them telling me the history of it when we were there, and we actually got to investigate the orphanage
Oh wow.
that night. We did the ghost tour, and our tour guide knew we were related to Ed and Lorraine, so she let us go about 15 minutes over. So we did an Estes method in the orphanage, and we had a tripwire set up in one of the rooms. And as the tour guide was talking about the history, the tripwire was going crazy, and I started snapping pictures. I have this phone app. It's called the ITC TV box, and it scans the white noise frequency. And then when it picks up an EMF field, it snaps a picture of it and presents a figure. Well, I got the figure of the actual lady from the orphanage, that was mean to the kids.
The
And
bitch.
I found out that she lived upstairs where Tom from Ghostly Images of Gettysburg, Tom lives upstairs above the orphanage in the apartment, and that was her room when she lived in the orphanage. And to sit down in that actual hole that they used to throw those kids in, they let us go down in there, and then they'd shut the lights off in there, and the actual smell in there, you could still smell the feces and urine of those poor kids that were being locked in there. We had one lady on the
They're
tour
chained
get
to the wall,
overwhelmed.
aren't they?
Yep. We had one lady come out, she was overwhelmed, and you could tell just by looking at her something wasn't right with her. I was like, "We need to do something about that. She's not looking right." We did a cleansing on her, and then she
God,
was fine after that. And we stayed afterwards after everybody left for 15 minutes and did our Estes method up in the
how did
dining room part.
how did that turn out?
It turned out really well. We were getting some positive evidence and answers from the spirit box,
Wow.
and I still got to go through. I was running an audio recorder, so I'm still going through EVP stuff from there. I had a recorder running the whole tour, but we got invited to come back with ghostly images.
That was the last time. Oh, that'd be neat.
Yep. Yeah, we got invited to come back VIP to be VIPs for that. Investigate the Jenny Wade house and the orphanage and the Farnsworth house. Because I heard the Farnsworth house has got
That would be
ties to
cool.
my family, Ed and Lorraine Warren. I guess they did some investigating in the Farnsworth house. Ed and Lorraine did.
That's the one. That's the two-story with the brick wall.
Yep, and it's a green colored house. That's where the shot supposedly came from that killed Jenny Wade.
God, yeah,
And I actually captured Jenny Wade's face
that's
in a
quite a
mirror
story.
when we were there. We were taking pictures in there, and I was taking a selfie in a mirror in one of the bedrooms. And on the bottom corner, Jenny Wade pops up in the mirror.
I'm gonna have to see that picture.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I want to see that.
And it's just a little blob
I,
about that
I
big.
wonder.
And I,
I don't know what the heck is going on with this delay.
yeah, I don't know. It's something lagging on your end. Maybe your
The hell it
Wi-Fi is
could be? No, I got the tower up there, and the tower's fine.
and maybe something on like your internet company's end or something.
You know, they're gonna get shot.
But but yeah, Gettysburg
But
was
that's
interesting
pretty.
experience.
What was I gonna
Another place
say?
that was pretty interesting. I don't know if you've ever been there, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky, the old tuberculosis
We're going
asylum.
there in April.
You'll love it. We've done it. I walked away with a lot of
It's the
personal.
real big one.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Amanda Amanda was there a month after we were with cold spotters, and we were there in May and they went June, and we were lucky and fortunate enough to have a thunderstorm come ripping through just as we started our investigation, Waverly Hills,
Oh, wow.
and that
Just
really
amped it
kicked
up a
up
little, huh?
some activity. Oh, yeah. We heard this metallic door
Uh,
slam that rattled the whole building and could never find it to try to debunk it, nothing. I've talked to several people that have been there, and they've experienced the same thing and never could find where that door made that loud bang. And,
have you had Denise and Ernie on back?
yep, yep, I've had them on
Okay.
Pac-Man
They
Paranormal.
used to, they, that's where they used to work, right?
Yep, yep, they were tour guides of Waverly, yep. And, my one personal experience that I'll never forget is we were on the 4th floor surgery room, and we decided to do a little role play action, and I laid out on a surgery table, and I played like I was sick, I was coughing, I had somebody wheel me under a light, and my one member was yelling, "We need a doctor, he's sick, we need help, we're gonna lose him," and we had a motion light sitting on one of the shelves where you walk in the door, so anything passes through it, it'll set it off. Well, that motion light kicked on, and I heard the noise, and I went to sit up, and I could not move. I was being pinned to the table. They had my arms, my legs restrained. It felt like somebody was just taking their hands and pushing on my chest. And then shortly after that, we heard 2 loud female screams come from the hallway. And we had, other females in the building. We were with another team that invited us, so, I said, "Text that other team, find out where they're at." They're on the other side of the building up on the 5th floor out on the roof doing an Estes method.
Oh,
Every one of them were accounted for. And it still blows our mind today with that, even me, with that place. And then walking back was another one we had. You can only investigate till 4 a.m., so we were walking back, and, this white figure comes running straight at us and then blows in between an investigator and myself. And you could feel the cold breeze, and I looked back like, "What the hell was that?" And it was gone. The other team come in behind us, and I asked them, "Did you see something come running down at you?" They never saw it. And down on the 1st floor, they got a in the lobby down there, they got a round table. Well, they got a man spirit down there that does not like people. You are guaranteed to get cussed at through a spirit box, on your recorders. We did a round table spirit box session. We had a K2 meter, Mel meter with REM pod, another K2 meter, and we had a guy that was skeptic. So we were letting him ask questions. Well, this thing was coming out to him, "You're an asshole. Shut up." And then we let the one girl ask questions, and the guy comes out across the spirit box, "Shut up, dumb bitch," at her. And then all of a sudden, the K2, all the way in a circle, just kept going off in the Mel meter and the REM pod. And they were just all coinciding with each other. They were all going off at the same time. And
oh,
then
that'd be wild.
and then something got thrown in one of the hallways, we heard. And that's down where the morgue is and the way to go to the body chute. Now the body chute down there, that is active, especially if you hit it at, like, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's active. You have to go all the way to the bottom. We've got still photos of a black mass filling up the whole body chute, working its way down at us towards the bottom. And then we heard the gate up top slam. Well, that gate's rusted, so it don't move. And then you take a ball and you throw it from the top down, and you listen for where something hits. A lot of times you won't hear it. It's like it's being stopped halfway down. 502, we didn't get nothing up there that night. We tried the light trick the flashlight trick up there for communication, and we didn't get nothing up there. It was more the 4th floor and the lobby, the morgue, body chute. I did see the creeper of Waverly Hills. That is something, a figure you wanna see, him crawling, that thing crawling across the floor. They believe he's a man that, was in a wheelchair that was there at Waverly, and he would go down to maintenance to get his wheelchair serviced every week and oiled. Well, he went down there, yelled out for people, nobody was there, and he was searching around. Well, he ended up falling off the loading dock and face planting into the pavement and killed himself instantly. And so they think he's possibly the creeper because he couldn't walk when he was alive, so he's out of his wheelchair. But when I saw him, he was up on we started off on the 4th floor, he was up on the outer catwalks out there where they had all the patient rooms where they would wheel him out into the air for the tuberculosis, and one of my members were smoking, so before we started, so I started milling around, and I'm looking down there, and I see it crawling across the floor, so I call one of my other members over, I'm like, "Hey, keep the camera pointed there, I'm gonna head towards it." As fast as I got down there, it went up over the balcony and down to the next floor below, and we never did see it the rest of the night.
That's wild.
But even on tour during the day, we did the day tour before we started the investigation, and we were with Vince, which is now the urban investigator. He was our tour guide, and we were walking around the outside with him, and we stop and look, and here's a female standing in one of the windows up at the very top of Waverly Hills looking out. Get around the back side of it, and they had the metal exit door. We both seen a face peek out that door, and we couldn't be sure it was that other team because they were roaming around. They didn't do the tour again because they rented the place for 2 nights, so they were there the night before, and I went up there and looked. There was nobody. So we got walking the hallways. Vince was talking to us, and him and I both spotted this shadow peek around the corner at us, yell out, "Hello." Nobody answered us. Figured it was maybe the other team, figuring they would answer us. Nobody did, and the other team was on the outer catwalks coming through, and we asked them, and they were never anywhere around there. So you get activity during the daylight in that place. It's pretty neat. For us, it lived up to the most haunted place in America. So you'll have a good experience when you go.
It had to be a great experience.
Oh yeah, especially I slid into the morgue on the morgue slab into that little refrigerator.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I slid in head first. Most of them all slid in feet first. I went in head first and laid in there for a while. I think I
What were
stayed
you
in there for
what were you
about
what
2
were you
hours.
picking up then?
Uh, I I had a K2 meter. right above my head here, and then I had my millimeter with REM pod sitting on my chest, and they were both going off. And then we had a Boo Bear sitting on one of the embalming tables in the morgue there, and that Boo Bear was going nuts. And I was in there by myself. My other members, they stayed outside because that's one of the Waverly Hills challenges. You lay in there for 15 minutes by yourself. So I decided we were
Yeah.
going to stay. I'm going to stay in there for 2 hours, and
For 2 hours?
yep, 2 hours, and see what I pick up by myself. And I laid in there for about 2 hours, and that K2 meter was nonstop. That REM pod was going crazy. The Mel was spiking, and going through the audio, I was listening to my
You
EVPs
had
from there,
some.
and I got the EVP saying he's dead. So they thought I was an actual patient that had died and was put in there.
Wow.
And I didn't ask any questions. I just laid quiet. My team members were asking questions out in the hallway. And I just stayed in there quiet. So it was
That's
a
really neat.
trip. I'm wanting to go back there. And then Missouri
Well, we're
State's
going,
another.
I don't know, Missouri State?
Yep, Missouri State Penitentiary is another good one. You ever get out to Missouri, I highly recommend it. That place
It's going to be
is never.
time this year.
We investigated it twice, and it hasn't let us down. The first time we did it was an overnight. We did a 8-hour overnight investigation, and that night I walked out. It looked like someone had taken a cigarette and burned the inside of my arm when I got out of there. And down in the dungeon, we got when we first started off. The first time we were there, we were setting up stuff in the trigger objects out in the hallway and everything, and I had my camera rolling and I was able to catch it on camera. We hear a woman yell out, "Hello." And we had 2 other people with us. He went and checked, and we thought somebody was yelling hello up on the cell block up the stairs. He went up there was nobody up there. So I went to the tour guide when we took a break. I was like, "Did they house any women in those dungeons?" He said, "No, not that I know of." I said, "Well, we heard a woman say hello down there." He goes, "You're not the only one that's reported that. Several people that investigate here report that too, and the only one they ever housed down there was the firebug of Missouri State. He was housed at JB. They called him JB the firebug because he was an arsonist. He set the prison on fire, and he killed several inmates and guards with that fire. So they housed him down in the dungeon for 18 years in the dark. The only lights are in the hallway. They bring him out once a day to take a shower, and he was right back in the darkness again. He ended up going blind. And when he got out, he had someone write a book for him on his time in Missouri State. He served 18 years down there. But that place has seen its history of violence, and it they call it the bloodiest 47 acres of Missouri. I mean, you've had guards getting killed in there, inmates getting stabbed to death. There was one right in solitary where an inmate got stabbed right in front of a guard. The guard couldn't do nothing about it. They were only armed with a billy club and a whistle. Only the tower guards were armed with weapons. And this inmate got stabbed right in front of this guard, and he just had to stand there and watch. And they have these what they call the rat cells up there, where they lock inmates in there that rat on other inmates so they can't get to them. And cell house 4, they had an inmate get stabbed to death in a cell there. They let him out for mess, and these 4 inmates broke into a cell, and they stabbed his eyes out, stabbed him 5 or 6 times. He managed to crawl out of his cell onto the catwalk, and that's where he died. And
How high?
there them catwalks are probably about the top of the prison. You got 5 or 6 catwalks up there.
So 5 tiers,
Yep, it's
five
about 5
tiers going up.
in solitary, even cell house 4. Cell house 3, when you go downstairs, you've got what they call 3D down there. That's where they house the criminally insane, and that place is very active. When we were there this past summer at the Devil on the Run tour with Nesper and Get Haunted, and we were investigating with Next of Kin Paranormal, and we were doing the human pendulum down there. And it's the first time I've ever seen the human pendulum done. And there was a we were communicating with a woman down there, and Joe from Next to Kin asked, "Is there anybody that you want to talk to in particular?" And she said yes. And then he asked, "Do you want to talk to Russell?" Yes, I'd like to talk to Russell. She remembered me from being there before and how respectful I was to them, so she wanted to communicate with me, and she said she did remember me, that I was respectful to her, and that I resembled somebody she knew and her family. So we started taking pictures, still
And her
shots.
family.
Yep, it was somebody in her family. I must have looked like one of her family members, but she
Huh.
was also locked in there because she was also criminally insane too. So you don't know for sure if that's what she's saying or she's making that up because she was criminally insane. But she did show up in several pictures that several people caught in that group. One girl went over there and stood right by the cell, and she showed up in the picture with that girl right next to her. So
Wow.
it was kind of funny. I see there's a question up
That's
there.
pretty cool.
Hey, Russell, had ever investigated a place that made you feel like maybe it was a place better left alone, like bad idea? Yeah, I have. We were actually talking about years ago going to the Seven Gates of Hell in York, Pennsylvania, and it ended up we were starting to have nightmares and bad dreams of the place, and we ended up not going. That was our warning, like, nope, somebody's gonna get hurt if we go out there. In fact, that's inspired me to write a short story on that. I wrote a short story on the Seven Gates of Hell in York, Pennsylvania. And now I'm actually taking that short story, I'm in the process of writing a movie with that short story, which is gonna be
Oh,
called Hell in the Woods. It's actually gonna be a horror movie. It's Still a work in progress. I've got the blueprints done to it. I'm starting the scenes now with the characters that are going to be in it. So, and I'm hoping to have that done pretty soon.
That's
And
pretty very cool.
it's got some good plot twists in it. And it's going to leave the audience kind of scared and kind of like the awe feeling. So
Wow,
that's one of my
that sounds
projects
really neat.
that are in the works. And then I'm also writing a book. Yeah, disembodied voices are a cool experience when you can hear them with your own ears. But what's cool is when you can hear them with your own ears and you actually pick it up on your camera and your recorder to validate what you just heard. Another
Right,
cool experience with Missouri State towards the end
that's
of the
really
night,
neat.
we went back to the dungeon and we put out the music box, motion light, and I stood by the last motion light and I was playing like I was a guard and I was telling JB, you're in the wrong cell. You need to come out of there. You need to get back in your right cell. And the music box go off and then light, light, and then the last one right next to me went off. And we had a girl that was new to investigating the paranormal. This was her very first investigation. And she started freaking out when this light went off and it's right next to me. She's freaking out going, it's standing right next to him. That light just came on. He's not moving. He's not reacting. And everybody's laughing at her. Is like, this is what we do. We're not here to run and get scared. We're here to document this stuff. We told her you'll be that way too once you get used to doing it.
Wow,
So, and then when we were there with Nesper and the Get Haunted crew,
that's crazy.
it was also interesting. We did an Estes method down in the dungeon, but we did it without the spirit box. We put the blindfold on, the noise canceling headphones, and we let somebody ask questions real low. But if we heard them, we didn't answer. If And then we used our sixth sense, our third eye, and our abilities to communicate. And we let one girl try it. She couldn't grasp the hang of it because she kind of new to it. So when I went under, I started picking up cell 21. Um, I picked up, actually, it was cell 20, and then I picked up haunted artifacts. I picked up fire, housed here for 18 years, went blind. So I ended up tapping into the man from cell number 20 who was not happy that Nesper was storing the artifacts and stuff in his cell. So he moved down to the dungeon where it was quiet because he didn't want to be bothered with all the activity. And I was able to confirm that with Wade Kirby from Nesper that he housed all the stuff in his cell and that man was not happy. And then I was picking up on JB Firebug. And when the tour guides heard that in the prison, it went around like crazy because JB's hard to actually tap into to get communicate with anybody. He don't really like to talk. And then like my dad, when they brought this girl, she has Pott's disease, and a spirit had drained her in that prison. And then when she got in contact with the Warren's artifacts, her body was going into shock. She was shaking. She was white as a ghost. They brought her back to the lobby, and they thought they were going to have to call the ambulance for her. Well, my dad said, "Leave her with me." My dad took some holy water, put it on his hands. He was holding hands with her. He did the Lord's Prayer with her, and he gave her his cleansing medallion, and she snapped right out of it. And everybody witnessed this like white
Good.
glow just come around him, sitting on that bench, and it's the most neat thing when you see that come around him. I've spotted it once on him when we were at a hotel that we
Did
investigated.
did what
What's that?
was there was there any blue mist? Was there any blue mist involved in that
No, just this,
aura?
just this, no, just this white light, just like this big white glow, like a veil.
Yeah.
And I saw it
Almost
once at
almost
a,
like a ring.
yep, it was just like this ring white veil just went right around him. In fact, he was just at the doctor's for a checkup, and the nurse seen it around him. We were talking to the nurse, telling her what we do with paranormal investigating and about us being related to the Warrens and stuff. And I was showing them pictures from the Warrens Paracon and stuff. She happened to look up, talk to my dad. She sees this white glow right around him, and it's just something we can't explain. I talked to Father Bob Bailey about it. He says it's kind of like a veil and a guardian. It's like his spirit guides, his guardian spirit guide. And I see we got another question up. Russell, what's your favorite piece of paranormal investigating equipment? Mine is my digital recorder, myself, and my millimeter with REM pod because that's a little harder unless you're using a walkie-talkie to set that thing off. And then her question is for you too, Greg. What's your favorite paranormal equipment? Anything other than Estes. Don't get me wrong, I love Estes, double Estes.
Oh God, that's I. I've been doing double Estes for so long. I got hooked at Old South Pittsburgh with somebody else, and we had it filmed. Jason Snyder from down in Southern Illinois filmed it, and you know, I always felt that uh, that type of communication was very important as far as the spirits are concerned, because there's a lot of stuff that goes by and never goes ahead and makes any communication. But if they know that you're sitting there wanting to listen to them, they're going to have a tendency to go ahead and feel a little more comfortable, and they're going to go ahead and come through. So, I always love to do a few other things, but I can't do them anymore because of what's going on with me. So that's the easiest thing for me to do right now. So that's why I am where I am. I would love to start to do a little of that uh, the Gensfeld experiment. I
Oh, okay.
think
Yep.
that would come into play. I think that would be very interesting. I haven't done it yet because number one, I don't have a pair of those goggles that they want 100 and some odd dollars for,
Oh, the Deco goggles. Yep.
and that, or you can go ahead and you can use it. You can use a regular eyebrow and cut holes in it and put ping pong balls, glue ping pong balls on it, and paint them red, and you would get the same effect. So,
Yep.
and that's all by, Greg and Dana Newkirk and their experiments that they've been doing. Uh, and that would be about it. But anything. Don't get me. I love double S. It's been our it's been the thing that I went to ever since we were at Gettysburg. That time that I was making all the communication down in the triangular field, and we had people way up on top of the hill, and they were doing a straight spirit box session, and you know how noise carries,
Yep.
and there were like 7 or 8 people around, and they were all you'd hear the guy that had the box, and he'd go ahead. It said head, and then somebody else would say no, it didn't. It said dead. We go back and forth, and it was like, you
Yeah.
know, it's crazy, and I just said no. I need a little more personal communication, especially since I was going in that direction anyway. So that's why I'm all that kind of communication. I love to try experiments in other parts. If I can, I will. But I do have a lot of experience with using different pieces of gear. I have a couple paralogics. I have a motion detector that's instead of being electromagnetic, it's static,
Okay. Yep.
and I think that that's something that's quite uncommon today. And those people are still trying to work their way back into the business. Static electricity is something that 9 out of 10 of the people that are in the paranormal field don't even bother even to look at.
Yeah, and I
And
mean
I always look at something if it's different.
they can use that static electricity to draw energy from, like your
That's the
lightning.
best,
That's what your lightning is,
right?
and it lightning will set off an EMF
They can.
detector. It'll set off a K2 meter. Yeah, that'd be neat, definitely, to see that appear out of
I've
thin
never
air.
seen that.
I've never seen that either,
Dana,
except for that.
have you seen that? No.
Only with my dad with that veil
Or
going
no,
around.
Ellison. Well,
So pendulums or dowsing rods. Yeah, pendulums.
yeah,
I'm
I like music.
I'm skeptical on them. If you get
You're
them in the right,
skeptical?
I'm skeptical on pendulums. If you get them in the right hands, then they're useful. But if you get the ones that sit there and they manipulate it, that's why I always, when someone's using a pendulum, I'm running a piece of equipment with it just in case. Because with the false positives, if somebody happens to move
I think they,
or
I've seen people, and I think it's a frame of mind where they actually have the intention for it to work, and they have to
Mhm.
set that intention to get it to respond correctly.
That's like dowsing
And
rods.
that's why we use that, and uh, we haven't used the dowsing rod, right?
Dowsing rods, you have to charge them up with
Dowsing
your energy.
rods, and then we even use tarot cards.
We've done something in the past with the
Tarot
pendulum.
cards work.
We've done a method with the pendulum in the past where another person takes the pendulum, goes sits in another room. You take a notebook, you write your question down. You don't ask it out loud. You write it down, and then when they give you an answer, you write the answer down underneath it and see how it coincides with what the pendulum's reading. It's sort of like doing your Estes
How
method
many
in another.
different types of questions?
It's mainly yes and no. You have to
I,
do yes and no questions.
you know, for validation wise, because I've heard people use them for other things. I have a spirit bottle that's got a pendulum in it,
Mhm.
and everybody sits around. It's almost like a mini seance, and
Yep.
you put your hands on the table, and it has to be a natural product, like wood,
Mm.
to
Yep.
to bring energy through it. And I've been in a session where we asked how many spirits were in the room, and we got the pendulum to go back and forth to the point where it was ticking the side of the bottle,
Yep.
and it actually came out with six.
Okay.
And that was from just a dead stop, which was really neat. This is, as long as we're talking about it, that's the bottle.
Okay. Yeah, I could see how that would
So you
be.
just set this on the table, and then you go ahead and you pretty much,
Yep.
you got to set it, let it sit there and stop like that almost. Now it's still going the opposite way right now. So, but we did that. We got this one here came from a guy by the name of Joe Diamond, who's a mind reader,
Okay.
and he's from Illinois. He's from up here by us, and he was at the Dole Mansion out in Crystal Lake, and he's still doing some great shows. He's an unbelievable psychic medium. I mean, he just rocks. And I've seen him do some magic tricks and sleight of hand and everything that's crazy. But he made these, and it was like I got to have one of those because I'm one of those people that, whether I want to or not, because of what's going on with
Yeah.
the tremors, and that I can't use one of those. I can't even
Yeah.
use dowsing rods anymore. So I always loved my dowsing rods. And we
Mhm.
had a friend. We have a historical society that we do all the time,
Mhm.
and that historical society, I had him. It was the first time he ever used them, and he's a big guy, and he had these rods like this, and we're talking to one of the spirits that's in the historical society, and we're asking and he's answering, and this guy is starting. He's got this look on his face like his eyes are going to pop out of his head, like Popeye, because he's
Yep.
like going, "Whoa," you know. And then I go ahead and say, I said, well, we're going to have to leave now, so I'm going to say goodbye. And he's holding the rods, and all of a sudden they start going around like helicopter blades. And I thought,
Okay.
what the
Yep.
hell is that? And then all of a sudden, somebody went ahead and told me later on, did you ever think of maybe that's him screaming at you? No.
Yep. Didn't want you to leave.
Yep.
Well, that's like when we used them at the prison next to Ken Paranormal when we were at that event. We had a girl using them. He let her try them, and he told the spirit to give her a hug. Well, the dowsing rods went and turned, and they hugged her, and they didn't let go until he told them to let go. And she started freaking out, kind of, because it was hugging her. And I said
Sure.
to her, I was like, "How's it feel to get hugged by a spirit?" Only issue with yes and no questions is how do you know there's not a lag in the conversation and they're not answering the last question when you talk to somebody in New Zealand over the phone and there is a lag.
I don't think there is a lag because you're talking about spirit, right?
Yep.
There's nothing between them to stop them. We were talking about this the other night a little bit and in group and the psychic medium or psychics unite, the group that we have on Monday nights, and that came up because that is something that I would say when you first think about it, that's a great thing to come up with.
Yep.
But there is no time and space. They're picking up what you're thinking and they're putting it down on the other area.
And that's like even with us with
So
the pendulum,
that's crazy.
writing down the question in the notebook, that spirit's going back and forth between two rooms. He's looking at my question and then going to that pendulum and making that pendulum react to the answer.
That's a great thing to think about. That's a great question, Nancy. I
But
really like that one.
you also got to be very careful.
Here's another one, and this one's by
Big believer in energy and setting intentions to not accidentally let anything evil. I like to call my spirit guides, guardian angels, saints, set intentions before I begin. That's very true because when you're doing Estes method, you're doing tarot cards, pendulums, Ouija boards, you're doing spirit communication. You don't know what's gonna come through that door if you don't set those intentions. You bring in something dark, that dark's there to stay. Ouija boards, when you do them, you need to close them out. That's physically moving the planchette to goodbye, not letting it move on its own, not spinning it in the circle and waiting for it to go there. You move it there and close it out. But be respectful. Thank everything for talking to you. But even with Ouija boards, you can bring in something dark. Some people do it, nothing ever happens. I've worked plenty of cases where it has happened. You get kids that play with the Ouija boards, and parents catch them. What are you doing with this in my house? And they take it. That door is already open. You're attached with that for the rest of your life.
yeah.
That's the same with doing even tarot cards. Same thing. If you don't know what you're
I
doing
had
with
I
them,
had
you can bring something dark in with those as well because it's spirit communication. And especially if you have like mental illness, like you're schizophrenic or disabilities, you start playing with that stuff, you're just a perfect hotbed for it to come in and latch on to it. Because to them, you're weak with it. So they're gonna come in. We worked a case where a girl was diagnosed schizophrenic. She was playing with tarot cards doing readings for people. Well, she brought three demonic entities in her home from three different countries because she had three different tarot decks she was reading from at the same time. She had a deck from Japan, a deck from Turkey, and a deck from China. And her father found them. She ended up saving the devil card out of three of those decks. And she ended up bringing in something dark in her home. And with that, us United States paranormal investigators can't do a cleansing on something that's demonic from another country because it's a whole different culture aspect of it than what the United States and I mean here we've got your Roman Catholic priests that do exorcisms. Well, they've got a different way of doing things over in China, Turkey, Japan, as far as that goes. So with that, us guys can't do nothing over here with it. So you got to be very careful with what you're doing with that
That's a very valid point.
And
I know when the only question that I would have for you is what we've been talking about basically with doing all the Estes and anything, any sort of ITC communication and intention. Do you do meditations a lot?
yeah, I will do it to ground myself because of my abilities. I will do that, surround myself with the white light of God. I do it before I even go to a location that I know I'm going to. If I'm having to deal with something dark, I will I will do that at home. I cleanse our car at home before I go, bless it with holy water. When we leave a location, we don't do it at the client's house because we don't want to see them seeing us cleaning our car with holy water and stuff because we don't want them freaking out. So we'll go down the road, park, pull out the equipment, open it up, start spraying it down with holy water, blessing the car. And that's even like when you're going to cemeteries, also. Same thing.
Yeah.
You can bring something home from there too.
Do you use a spray
That's
bottle?
Yep. We use a spray bottle with holy water in it. I also make my own sage spray, cleansing sprays and stuff too
Yeah.
for it.
Have you ever used this stuff? Florida
Yep.
water?
I go to the Catholic Church and I get Florida water. Yep, I've heard of it. Yep. I go to the Catholic
You get it
Church and get
free.
it. Yep, right out of the tap. And while I'm there,
That's
I get
that's
a
what I
blessing.
that's why I said that's free.
Yep, and I get it while I'm
That's
there. I
that's
get a
not a bad
blessing
idea.
from the priest while I'm there because of what I
I
do.
see. I just won't. What the heck was that?
Not like a messenger went off.
Do we have another show on tonight?
No, you're the only one because mine's tomorrow night.
Here, this will be the last question. Where is it? Oh, this we already did this one, didn't we?
Yep. But yeah, when you're having to deal with something
So,
dark
is there
like
anything?
yeah,
Is there
when you're dealing
anything?
with
Is there? Go ahead.
yeah, when you're dealing with something dark, you've always want to be protected. I mean, there demonic is very rare, but it does happen. It is real. I mean, I've seen people's eyes roll in the back of their heads. I've watched upside down crosses get scratched into them. I've myself have been scratched in three dealing with them, and you can tell the difference between a demonic scratch and a spirit scratch. Spirit scratch looks like someone takes their fingernails and scratches you. Demonic, it looks like someone takes razor blades to you. So you got to be very careful when you're going out. That's even for the ones that do the urban investigating and going into these haunted, abandoned places that have no history on them. You're just going in there and you're just having fun. Well, you don't know what you're dealing with when you're going in there. You're dealing with, you could be dealing with something dark, especially you're breaking into a hospital or an old asylum. Palace Showman said Palo wood. Yep, we use that as well. I use that in my cleansings. That stuff works really well. We did find sage does not work against your darker demonic entities. They've upped their game towards sage. You have to go with your more blessed holy method with your darker stuff. stage will work for your regular spirits, but not your demonic. It'll just throw them into hiding, and then they wait and they lay dormant till you leave and everything clears, and then they go back on a rampage.
So I think everybody knows who you are, and everybody knows that you have your show,
Yep.
and you want to mention it on the air now so that everybody knows when you come on.
Yep, I'm on Supernatural Link every Saturday night, the Beyond Life Paranormal Research podcast. This Saturday night, I have Katie Stafford on, who is the owner of Supernatural Link. She's our boss of the network, and she will be my guest tomorrow night.
Yep.
Next Saturday, I have Vixen Paranormal out of Texas as my guest. And then I've got some great guests coming up in the
We're in
future.
Texas.
I think she's down by San Antonio. She does a lot of investigating with Outlaw Paranormal out of Tennessee, who was my guest last week, Jimmy Rickard. And
Okay.
we do have some Paracons coming up in October. You can catch us at the Rock Island Paracon October 4th. We will be vending there. It's going to be a big Paracon. Nesper will be there with Annabelle the doll and some of the artifacts from the Warrens Occult Museum. Wade Kirby will be guest speaking. There's going to be a lot of great groups there. Paranormal Theory, Get Haunted's going to be there. And there's a bunch more they're announcing. I think Father Bob Bailey's going to be there because he's
Oh,
traveling with
good.
Ned this year. I don't know if Ryan Buell's booked for it yet or not.
That's and
That will be October 4th. It starts at 9 a.m. So it's going to be a good
October
Paracon. We're looking
4th.
forward to it. And we've got some other projects coming up that we're working on. I can't really dive too much into it. Some filming projects, but I can't really talk about too much of it yet. So, and then we're going to be doing some events this year as well that
That's
we're waiting.
that's really neat.
Yeah, we're staying pretty busy.
You're gonna know. Yeah, that's for
And
sure.
then
That's great.
we're we're going to
So
be in West
I want to.
Virginia also with Nesper. We're going to go
Where
out
at?
to their Devil West Virginia State Penitentiary with Nesper. They're doing the Devil on the Run tour out there. We're going out to investigate with Nesper at the West Virginia State Penitentiary.
When you're coming back the other way, stop in Tennessee and go to Brushy Mountain.
Yeah, that's on my list. Places to go. We are still waiting on to hear on the Crypticon event here in Kansas City. They're wanting us to do a paranormal thing there. We're in talks with the owner of them about doing we're gonna do it after hours Estes method with the crowd to let them communicate with something if we can conjure up some spirits, and that's gonna be a good Crypticon this year. Kane Hodder's gonna be there from Friday the 13th, which is he's also a world renowned
Wow.
paranormal investigator with
Yep.
Hollywood Ghost Hunters.
Yep.
So
Good.
if
Good
I can
people.
convince him, I might try to convince him to come and do an Estes method with us after hours.
That would be pretty cool.
So
So I want to thank you. Is there anything else you want to mention?
uh, stay tuned for the book. I'm hoping to have it released by the end of 2025. I'm already on chapter 3 already,
Wow.
so that it's a pretty good book.
So
It's gonna
it's been
have some of my cases in it that I've done, some of my world renowned cases that I've done that are notable with the demonic. It's also got some kind of did a mixture. It explains the paranormal in depth and demonic, what I've learned from my experiences and from my mentors, and so it's going to be a pretty good book when it's finished. And then I'm hoping to get the movie done and
well, that's
released.
awesome. And I want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's going to take a while for the movie, though. Oh,
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure having you. It's my honor.
I
That's
always
for
enjoy
sure.
coming on your
And I
show.
want to thank everybody,
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning
except for the delay. Yep.
in.
If you want to hang around for a while, everybody, thank you very much for being here tonight. It's been a great show. As as he always is, he's an awesome person to have on. He's a great guest, and he's a great podcaster. So you guys all have a great weekend, and we will see you. Paranormal. There's a show, Paranormal Happy Hour, that's on tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m., 2 o'clock Central Time. And I'm going to be a guest on that. And there's great Susan. I don't have her name right in front of me right now, and I have no memory. So if I don't do it in 5 minutes, it gets blown away. So, but it's a great. It's going to probably be a real good show. So everybody stay healthy and stay away from the flu and colds and everything. And you have a great weekend. And we will see you next week. Get the opportunity to join us, and make sure you join Russ on his show. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight. God bless.